This is KUGAN CASSIUS Rifle Team in association with Macklin's Gym Marbella. We're at the final press conference here for Groves de Louisa, Copper Box this Saturday. With me I've got co-promoter. You happy with that, co-promoter?
That's cool.
Yeah. Kalle Sauerland, how are you?
Good, Googs. You look well.
Yeah, put on a bit of weight. But, you know.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, masking it behind that jacket today, but you look all right.
So you were in South Africa at the same time I was, I believe?
I think just before. I was there over New Year's.
Oh, okay.
Seeing the family down there.
Yeah, I was just visiting some lions and tigers and stuff. So.
Yeah. Right. I'm sure you're fighting them, I guess, yeah?
Not fighting them, definitely not. Hiding in the very high-ended vehicles. George Groves, some very positive words from yourself about the direction you want to steer George to this year.
Yeah.
You know, no secret, he's had 3 failed world title attempts.
Yeah.
But you believe that this year will be his year where he becomes world champion?
Well, I think you've got to look at the, it doesn't matter how many world title attempts he's had. I think it's against who they were and where they were. It's no secret that the first fight was a disputable fight. The second fight was a level peg until the knockout. It can happen anywhere, anytime, to any fighter. And look, we got a not bad decision. It was the decision was fine at the Jack fight, but it was a close fight. Had that been in the UK, which would have been the case if it was the split was the other way around, Rose would have won the fight. So it's hard luck, but we're not crying about it. No one ever heard one thing about protest or moaning or something like that. It's all good. George has got a new trainer who we think's excellent, and Shane, and they certainly look like they're blending well, they're developing well, the relationship. That will take time. Don't expect, anyone who, whenever you hear in boxing, oh, he's got a new trainer and he's going to look sensational. A new trainer will need 6 months to a year, maybe even longer, to actually implement what he wants to do. So it depends obviously how old the fighter is, but in George's case, he's very young. He's 27 years old. And they seem to be really fitting well together, and that will build. So that's exactly what we need on Saturday night. Announce that we're back. It's, as I said it up there, it's not a comeback. You don't have comebacks after losing a split points decision for a world title in Las Vegas. It's an announcement. We're back, and I'm hoping for a shining display on Saturday. But it will take time for Shane and George to forge that relationship, which in the past, Adam obviously had with George. That will take time, and it won't happen straight away. But obviously George is, he was whiskers away from winning the world title in Vegas. Whiskers away, round or 2 in it. But he, so he's certainly at world level. But now we want to get that last 10-15% out of him, and I think Shane's the man to do that.
During those 3 world title fights that we're talking about, obviously Paddy Fitzpatrick was in the corner. George has been very critical of Paddy, obviously since his move to Shane. What's your take on that?
I've also been quite critical myself, so I can't really say. I was there. I saw it firsthand. I obviously didn't see what happened in the 8 or 9 weeks of camp, whatever it was, when they were over there. So the flip-flop story I just heard, those I hear for the first time. That's between the trainer and the fighter. What I can say is I was sitting right next to the corner, 3-4 feet away, and I could hear, they didn't know what round it was. I could hear them saying, was it 120 seconds, 3 minutes until we're world champion, 2 rounds until we're world champion, and I'm just thinking, even if that's your opinion as a trainer, even then, you must see that it's a close fight, and you need those last 2 rounds. You need to push everything out in the last 2 rounds. And it's simply, when you hear those words, and I got in the ring afterwards, and go have a look back at the fight, and you see my reaction in the ring afterwards, and George's reaction. I walked in and I said, I just pulled a face at George, and George was like, oh, what's wrong? They thought they won the fight. You know, and George, obviously, you know, he's in a fight. It's very difficult to score a fight ringside, let alone be the man boxing in the fight. It's very tough to do, and you need your corner to be reading the fight. And we were shouting to the corner the whole time. You know, my brother, myself, other members of George's team were saying, you need the rounds. You need the round. That was from the 8th, 9th round onwards, where George, in the middle stages, where you felt, oh, he's got the hang of this now. He's going to go on and roll through this fight now, and maybe even stop him late. But he sort of dipped, didn't he? You know, and that you could say, okay, he didn't have it in the tank. Fair enough. Well, then, you know, look at Abraham. He take a round off and then finish strong. You know, look at the Murray fight. Won that over the last 3 rounds. You know, from a trainer's point of view, look what Ollie Wegner did with Abraham in that fight. He read that fight to a T. To a T. He was down in the, I think, 8th round. But they had that plan to take the rounds off, the middle 7th, 8th rounds. Abraham's famous for throwing actually no punches. I wouldn't recommend that to any fighter, but he seems to do that and then come very strong late. And, you know, that's experience in the corner. You know, that's reading the game, you know, and some people will say, okay, well, Shane's not experienced. Well, Shane maybe isn't experienced, but Shane has got he's a very gifted trainer, and there's a reason why so many people want to work with him all of a sudden, is because, you know, look at what he does. You know, look at the way he works in a gym. You know, it's very professional.
Is it a possibility that you will end up putting George in with Arthur Abraham at some point?
I've always said if that's the option, it's not my favourite option. You know, but we've done big fights before between 2 guys out of our team. You know, at the end of the day, this is, you know, it's an ego sport. You have to think for yourself, these fighters. So I can't turn around to the fight and say, oh, I don't want to make that fight because, you know, they're both part of the same family. No, don't work like that. You'll get there. You'll be able to say that when there's 4 options, but not when there's the only option. So look, Abraham's got a tough fight with Ramirez. That's a very tough fight over in Vegas on the Pacquiao card. There's obviously the Felix Storm situation, Shudinov, that fight. We'll have an eye on that. You know, so there's D. Carolis, who beat Fighting Butts.
Regular champion.
Regular champ. There's a lot of different routes, you know. I mean, I saw that, you know, the WBC have announced Callum Smith against
Mohammadi.
Mohammadi, which is something that we were questioning, because you can't just go from the number 1, skips 5 people in the rankings and go to the number 7. Now, they might have thought that George was unavailable, although he's boxing Saturday, and that's something that we flagged up to them, so that, you know, we will be protesting that. And we're happy to go for a 4-man tournament if it's for the WBC. You know, that's also a good route. But these are all different routes, you know, and at the moment, we're just focusing on Saturday. De Luisa is I'm not sitting there standing here and say he's world class, but on the other hand, he's been in there with names, and he's someone you just don't take any fight lightly at this stage of a career, you know. So George needs to win and win impressively.
I just want to finish off by talking about, obviously, there's speculation that next week Anthony Joshua's opponent will be named as Joshua-Chisora. Also, Eddie Hearn has mentioned the likes of Bryant Jennings, etc. Takam as well, that fight for the IBF, that route has been mentioned. But can you give us anything on possibilities of Chisora and Joshua? I
mean, the Chisora situation is quite simple. Hellenius didn't want the fight, turned it down in the 11th hour, 12 hours before a purse bid, or 24 hours before a purse bid. It was the fight we wanted. It went down to Joshua now. Spoken to Eddie. I know they've got a few very good options, but I think that's a huge fight, Chisora Joshua. You know, that's for sure. And it's a fight that makes sense for both fighters, I guess. You know, so we're talking to Derek today, and there'll be an decision shortly on that. And at the end, you know, I think both sides will have to see if we can make ends meet.
So, but currently, no decision has been made regarding that April the 9th.
We haven't made that fight yet. No.
Okay.
You heard it here exclusively.
Any update on David Price?
Yeah, David had a very good meeting with my brother. He's looking at a new trainer. He's definitely going to fight on, which I think it's the right decision. It's the decision I said after the last fight. I said, you know, it's not for us to make that decision. David has to make that decision. He's made that decision, and now I can say I'm very happy he's made that decision. I think, like I've said before, I don't think that David's issue is, like everyone says, his chin and whatever. Look, you know, you actually look at the situations in the different fights. David has an issue, I think, in scenario crisis management, you know, which Klitschko had earlier on in his career, and actually Manny Stewart taught him very successfully how to, in a situation where you've been hit, to recover, to use your size, use your jab, use your strength, which David has all of that. And in the last fight, you know, he got caught with one. It's heavyweight boxing, you know all about that. You're a heavyweight, and yeah, he caught one. And what did David do? He started throwing uppercuts. You know, I was like sitting there thinking, oh my God, you know, I mean, instead of holding, you know, it sounds terrible, you know, terrible. I'm sorry to advocate holding, but in those situations, a fighter, when he's buzzed, needs to hold, or use his strength, push him off with a jab, but not start launching uppercuts, and the other guy sweeps him with a clean right hand. You know, it's suicide. So what goes on there is what happens when you get buzzed. You know, and I think that situation hasn't been dealt with enough in his training camps.
It's a bit of a funny question, but is the fact that Tony Thompson and Erkan Teper have failed drug tests made David feel a little bit better about his own abilities because they're the defeats that he's suffered, if that makes any sense?
Well, it makes total sense.
Yeah.
Makes total sense. I think if you go into a ring using performance-enhancing drugs, PEDs, you're going in the ring with a lethal weapon. You know, I mean, you're going in the ring anyways in a physical sport where the aim is to beat someone in a physical matchup, man on man. But now you're going in there basically with a weapon, you know, with an illegal weapon, and that was the case in those three contests. I can't say too much on the situation around that because there is a legal case going on. We're not letting it rest. I can promise you one thing: you will get the full story. We're not going to let this simply drop. It's a scandal beyond scandals. If this was in any other sport, you know, it would be front page news. You're talking about things like other fights where he was doped. You're talking about police raids on private addresses and finding masses of steroids. You're talking about B samples that haven't been opened. You're talking about bans that haven't been declared until after fights to make certain fights outside the ban. You know, I mean, it's like a Hollywood thriller. You know, it all came to us 5 months after the contest had taken place. So you've got to imagine doping tests, which I sat with David until 2:30 in the morning, not exactly the best of spirits in Stuttgart last summer. 2:30 in the morning, that test goes off to a lab, right, in custody with a NADA official. The custody chain there is that the results go to the board, the German board in this case, who have made an absolute mockery of the sport. They've absolutely let us down from A to Z. And there's a reason why for viewers they'll say, oh well, you're promoting Germany. We haven't worked with the German board in 20 years, right? There's a reason for that. They don't enforce training tests. They don't do these things, you know, and we flagged this up before, and it took them from July, let's say they got the results in August, until December to inform us. You know, the guy could have fought in between. You know, in fact, he announced a fight in between against Hellenius, you know, and then suddenly, by sheer coincidence, he broke his thumb and was replaced by his stablemate, who no one had ever heard of. It wasn't even in the rankings. But they'd sold out an arena, didn't want to lose the ticket sales, of course, and it was a fight on against a guy, Franz Rill. You ever heard of him? Have you ever heard of him, KUGAN?
I can't say that.
No, I mean, exactly. And this guy is fighting in a sold-out arena for the European Championship. I can tell you, he wasn't getting the same money as Teper was getting. I'm assuming that, but from my a little bit of boxing promotional knowledge. I can tell you that.
I like the way you said you can't really talk about it, and then went on a 5-minute rant.
Yeah, I know,
about
because you know, it's something that you know. Listen, I deal with all sorts of fighters. We have almost 40 fighters on our books. We've had, you know, a lot of different fighters, different types of fighters over the year. David Price, and anyone who's interviewed him, asked him for an autograph, for a selfie, or been to spoken to him for 2 minutes, will tell you he's probably the nicest fighter you will ever meet at that level. I'm sure there's a lot of nice fighters around, but someone who's he's won a bronze medal. He's at the Olympics. He's gone on to become British champion, and on his journey up, he's met 3 times against a doping cheat. Whether he lost them or not, he's in against a cheat. It's for someone, David, he's the salt of the earth, family guy, lovely family, proper Liverpool man. It's just that's why I'm rambling.
All right, well, listen, Kalle, thank you very much for talking to IFL TV. I'm sure there's other people that want to talk to you, so I'll let you crack on.
Always
and
a pleasure.
Listen, we'll see you tomorrow night at the Coffee Box.
Looking forward to it.
All right, thank you very much, Kalle Sauerland.
Nice one.